great news for Indiana. And what's even better is that Bryant Haines gets a contract extension. I don't even know if you really want to call it an extension, because at this point he's basically already gotten 2 extensions. So at the end of the season, he basically got a new deal that was going to give him around like over $1 million a year. So like $1.2 million a year, which was a massive increase from what he was originally making, which was around like 700,000 a year, which for Indiana standards in football, that is a lot of money. But we know that now in this new age of college football, prices are going up, not just for getting players, but for keeping and retaining coaches and getting coaches as well. And Bryant Haines was a fantastic defensive coordinator this past season for Indiana. We know that he's been a part of Curt Cignetti's, basically coaching staff for a long time, even at James Madison. And there was a lot of programs wanting him. He was a candidate for the Temple head football coaching job, ECU football head coaching job. I don't know if those were really legit, but he was a candidate for those jobs. But then it came out that maybe Ohio State and some of these other programs might be wanting to get Bryant Haines. Penn State as well. When Tom Allen left for the Clemson job, it looked like maybe Penn State might try to make a move, get Bryant Haines. You don't want that if you're Indiana. What's so big about this for Indiana football is now a new extension, a new restructured contract for Bryant Haines has come out where he's going to be making $2 million a year. Why is this so huge? The reason why this is such a big deal is because this is by far the most money that an assistant coach has ever made in Indiana football history. And also only 9 assistants in the country last year made $2 million or more. We're talking all of college football. We're talking about the big boy programs. Indiana football is not among the big boy programs yet in any way, shape, or form when it comes to attendance. They don't have a big stadium. When it comes to facilities, when it comes to winning. We know Indiana football is one of the losingest programs in college football until this past season with Curt Cignetti. But what we know now is that Indiana football is spending money like these big boy programs. This is huge because Bryant Haines, obviously, in Curt Cignetti's mind, he can not bear to watch him leave for another program. He is just too valuable to what Indiana's doing right now. Doesn't want to replace him. And Curt Cignetti's like, you know what? You gave me a big extension. I'm making $8 million a year. We're going to keep Bryant Haines. So they did everything they could to keep him, and they're going to keep him. He's going to be making $2 million a year. I cannot even believe I'm saying this for Indiana football. This is unreal for an Indiana football assistant coach. I mean, I remember even at like the Alabamas of the world a few years ago that they barely made $1 million a year, $1.5 million a year. Now Indiana football is paying an assistant coach $2 million a year. It's crazy. Indiana's upped their game in football by a lot. They realize that football is where the money is at. Football is where all these programs and all the athletics departments are making like 90% of their money. It's just not happening in basketball. It's not happening in other sports. I mean, there's tons of great sports, tons of other sports that people love to play, love to watch, they enjoy, but they just don't bring in the revenue that football does. Football drives everything. And if Indiana was going to stay relevant in modern day NCAA athletics, they had to up their game in football, and that is what they are doing. I cannot just, again, describe how big of a deal that it is for Indiana to do this. I mean, if they lose Bryant Haines to another program right now, then Curt Cignetti would have to get a new coordinator. It would just be a whole ordeal. It's just something you do not really want to have to deal with. And it would show that Indiana still is nowhere near the top. And we'll see. I mean, I'm excited to see what's going to happen for Indiana football in the future. I'm really excited about it because I think bright days are still ahead. I think Indiana could make the playoffs again. I do. I'm not saying that it's going to happen next year. I'm not even going to say that it's going to happen at all. I just think there is a really good opportunity for Indiana to continue to be really good in the future with Curt Cignetti at head coach. And moves like this are why I'm so confident. I mean, you're seeing more and more commitment to football. The fan interest among Indiana fans is off the charts. I mean, before, at the beginning of Curt Cignetti's tenure, couldn't even fill up the stands. Now they're selling out every game. And tons of Indiana people, tons of Indiana fans that I've talked with are saying like they're more excited about Indiana football than Indiana basketball. And that's never been said ever. And I understand Indiana basketball is going through, rough times, and they've been going through rough times for a long time. But that's like Nebraska fans suddenly saying that they're more excited about basketball season than football season. That's just not how it works. That's just not how it works. It's always Nebraska football. And for Indiana, it's always been Indiana basketball. Now, not just because Indiana basketball has been struggling, because that is contributing to it a little bit. More so the fact Indiana football is actually fun to watch. They had a great season this past year, and the prospects of next year possibly being maybe even better somehow, even if the record isn't better because the schedule's tougher, but looking great for next season. Indiana fans are truly excited about next season. I know I am. It's far away. We're only in February right now. There's still plenty of time before, like the offseason hasn't even really begun yet. It was so early in the offseason. You got the spring, spring practice, the spring game, the portal, all that kind of stuff. But, as the season gets closer and closer, excitement in Bloomington is just going to grow and grow for the next football season. And Bryant Haines being retained and getting this big of a contract to stay shows you Indiana football means business. They are for real and trying to actually create, for the first time basically ever, a good football program, a consistently good football program that can compete with some of the best programs in college football. And I'm very excited to see it. Bryant Haines, well-deserved getting the contract extension. He was fantastic this past season. And eventually, he's going to move on to greener pastures. You're not going to be able to keep him forever. It's just not the way it works. I mean, eventually, Clemson was not able to keep Brent Venables. He went to Oklahoma. You can't do it forever. But for Indiana, maybe get a few more years of Bryant Haines, the defensive coordinator. It's going to be very, very good for Indiana football and looking bright for their defense next season.